Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The moment I stepped into my parents' dining room, I felt it. The air was too polished, too staged, like a theater set moments before the curtain rose. Mother's smile was stretched thin as porcelain, Father's handshake too firm, and Stephen lounged at the table as if it were already his throne. The table gleamed with formality, china reserved only for Christmas, crystal glasses catching the chandelier light, roses arranged with military precision. My stomach sank. This wasn't Sunday dinner. This was an ambush. Charlotte, darling, sit here. Mother's hand pressed between my shoulder blades with unusual insistence. I obeyed, though every instinct screamed run. Father carved roast beef with deliberate care, his eyes flicking to a manila folder tucked beside his plate. Stephen smirked at me, the same smug expression he'd worn when he wrecked my sketchbooks as a child. Finally, Father cleared his throat. We've been thinking about the future of your factory. My fork froze halfway to my lips. It's time to make it a true family business, Mother chimed in, her voice silky but sharp. Stephen has been preparing. He'd make an excellent manager. Stephen leaned forward, grinning. You can focus on your pretty little designs while I handle the real work. Money, staff, expansion. My chest burned, the bite of beef turning to ash in my mouth. Years of exhaustion, of sleeping on fabric rolls, of begging banks for loans they refused to co-sign. Memories flooded like knives. My factory was built on my blood and thread. And here they were, plotting to gift it away. I forced calm into my voice. It's not a family business. I built it. Father's brows knitted, his tone firm. With our support, Charlotte. And now it's Stephen's turn to carry the torch. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes, not from weakness, but fury. They hadn't come to my graduation. They hadn't answered when I called, desperate for help paying rent. Yet now, in their world of entitlement, my triumph was theirs to plunder. I set my fork down with deliberate care. No one carries a torch for me, I said, my voice trembling but steady, because I lit this fire myself. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. 2 nights later, I walked into my parents' living room with a folder of my own. The same roses sat on the mantel, now wilting, their petals curling inward. Mother's eyes darted to the leather file in my hands, and for the first time, her smile faltered. Father gestured stiffly. Charlotte, we thought you'd had time to reconsider. No, I replied, my voice cold as glass. I laid the documents on the coffee table, sliding them toward him. In fact, I've already secured a management agreement with a professional firm, not with Stephen. Stephen scoffed. You can't be serious. Outsiders? This is a betrayal of family. I turned to him, my hands trembling but steady enough to open another folder. Copies of financial records, news clippings, and performance reviews. You've been given responsibility before. A cafe that closed within months. A failed logistics venture that left unpaid debts. Even the sports shop Father funded, gone in a year. His smirk cracked. Those weren't. They were facts. My throat tightened as tears pressed hot behind my eyes. And yet when I was alone, begging you for help, you looked away. You all did. My voice broke and I didn't fight it. You missed my graduation. You refused to co-sign a single loan. I slept on the floor of my factory to keep machines running. And now, you dare to ask me to hand it all to Stephen. Mother's face hardened, but Father's fingers twitched against the paperwork, betraying unease. Stephen rose abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. This is ridiculous. You're making me out to be some kind of failure. I met his fury with steady silence. I'm only showing what's true. You wanted unmasking, Stephen? Consider it done. The room held its breath, as if the walls themselves knew a war had begun. That night, alone in my apartment, I couldn't stop the flood of memories. Their voices from the living room still echoed in my ears, but louder still were the ghosts of years gone by. Moments that shaped the hollow ache inside me. I remembered my graduation day, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. My parents had promised they'd come. Instead, I walked the stage to empty chairs, my diploma clutched like a consolation prize. I remembered the bank officer's pitying look when he shook his head. Without a co-signer, Miss Carter, we can't approve this loan. My hands had been raw from sewing samples through the night, but my own family, wealthy enough to drive new cars, wouldn't risk their names beside mine. And I remembered Christmases when Stephen's failures were forgiven with gifts and laughter, while my successes earned no more than a nod. I'd sit quietly smiling, while my chest burned with the need to be seen. Tears slipped freely now, staining the sketches spread across my kitchen table. Each drawing bore the weight of those years, designs born from hunger, resilience, and loneliness. When my phone buzzed, I answered without thinking. It was my childhood friend, Mariah. "Char, you sound broken. What happened?" "They tried to take it," I whispered, my voice cracking. "All the nights I worked alone, all the times they left me behind, and now they want to hand it to Stephen like it's a toy." There was a pause, then Maria's voice sharpened. "Then you fight? Not just for your factory, for the girl they ignored, for the woman you became." Her words struck deep. The ghosts of neglect were heavy, but they didn't own me anymore. I wiped my tears, straightened the sketches, and whispered to the silence, "Never again." 2 days later, I agreed to meet them again. This time, I carried no folders, only resolve. The conference room at my factory, my territory, was where I chose to face them. The hum of sewing machines beyond the glass walls reminded me of every hour I had fought to stand here. My parents sat stiffly at one side of the table. Stephen sprawled across from me, arms crossed like a sulking king denied his crown. I began calmly. "There will be no misunderstanding after today. This factory is mine. My designs, my contracts, my responsibility. None of you will hold positions here, ever." Stephen scoffed. "You're making a mistake shutting out family." I leaned forward, my voice sharp. Family doesn't appear only when the table is set with profit. Family doesn't ignore pleas for help, then demand a throne when the castle is built. Mother's lips thinned. "Charlotte, you're being dramatic." "Am I?" My throat burned as tears pressed forward, but I let them shine. "Where were you when I was patching holes in the roof just to keep rain off my machines? Where were you when I ate instant noodles for months so I could pay staff wages on time? You don't get to call me dramatic when you abandoned me." Father shifted uneasily. "What are you saying exactly?" I took a steady breath. "Here are my boundaries. You will not interfere with my staff, my fabrics, or my designs. You will not claim ownership in conversations with others. If you do, I will cut every tie. And I mean every tie." The silence that followed was thick with disbelief. Stephen's face flushed red with rage, while Mother's eyes glistened with something that might have been envy or fury. I rose to my feet. This chapter of my life is mine alone. Accept it or lose me entirely. For the first time, none of them had words. A year and a half later, I stood on the balcony of my newest factory in Chicago, the city lights glittering like jewels beneath the night sky. The sound of machines hummed in rhythm below, steady, confident, unstoppable. Detroit's opening was only weeks away, and orders poured in faster than we could produce. Behind me, Maria clinked her glass against mine. "From sleeping on fabric rolls to running 3 factories. Charlotte, you did it." I smiled, tears catching the city's glow. "Not just me. Us, my team, my chosen family, you all stood by me when no one else did." My phone buzzed with a message from my mother. "We miss you. Let's talk." For a moment, old ache stirred, but then I looked at the bustling floor below, faces of colleagues who had become brothers, sisters, kin by choice. I typed back only 2 words, "Too late." Turning to Maria, I said, "For years I begged to be seen. Now I don't need their eyes on me. I see myself." The night air carried my words upward, weightless. At last, I was free.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.